What's going on, junkies? It's Brandon Dukeman here with Will Harvey, and this is the Daily Wealth Junkies Show. Thanks for joining us today. And like always, don't forget to subscribe to the show so that way you're not missing any of our daily episodes. And join us on Facebook at facebook.com/groups/wealth junkies. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Will to introduce our guest for the day.
Thanks, Brandon. Today on the show, we have Shawn McBride. So he is a corporate lawyer, a self-described business nerd, and frequent speaker of the future of business and business planning. And he's also authored 2 books, which he's going to talk about. So with that, Shawn, that's an impressive background, and your site is your experience and everything speaks for itself. So can you just give the listeners a little bit more about how you got to where you are today?
Yeah, sure. And I think talking to you guys about the theme, I kind of an unusual journey to becoming, what I am today, which is a combination of a business lawyer and a speaker on the future of business. Started out, went to high school. I was good at math and I liked business. So everybody was like, you should be an accountant. That would be great for you.
Terrible.
So I listened. I was young and I was, I listened to what people told me and I said, okay, I'll go. And I went to study accounting. I did get a CPA license, but I hadn't finished the undergrad program, and I realized that wasn't for me. I wasn't going to spend my whole life just checking over other people's books.
Right. I can't imagine that being a very thrilling,
It has some interest, it has some complexity to it, but it's just not the direction I wanted to go.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe if you're interested in being in other people's business and understanding their financial lives, maybe.
Yeah, for people who are compliance oriented, that hey, we got to have a checklist for everything.
Right.
But I mean, there are people out there. I mean, I've hired them, I've worked with them, and they're like, okay, that's what they do. I that doesn't throw me as much as creating, right? So I'm more on the creative side. How do we create stuff? So knew before I finished my undergrad degree that I didn't want to be an accountant for my entire life. And I had really enjoyed some survey courses of business law. So I'm like, that's interesting because I can go out there, I can do some real planning, I can get into things, I can shape some direction on stuff and, use that as a springboard deeper into management. So that's what I did. I went to law school, became a business lawyer, spent about a decade at some of the largest law firms in the country. One law firm worked for you guys. I know you're in DC area. I worked for a law firm in DC for a couple of years. Fantastic experience, but the partners got in a fight.
Oh, wow.
Placed me out of business. So,
no kidding.
So with all that business law that you've learned and dealing with other people's mistakes that their mistakes need you, did that help you kind of prepare yourself for, I mean, I'm sure that's valuable knowledge that you're getting paid to learn essentially.
Exactly. So, I saw what happened with that business partnership dispute. I've seen other partnerships not work well, and that's become a big theme in my work now is, I do a lot of partnerships. I partner with a lot of people. Because of my experience in the past, I've learned kind of a lot of the communication up front. So I have a lot of successful partnerships, not 100% batting rate, but pretty high. Usually if I decide I want to work with somebody over the long term, we get in, we communicate, we figure out how we're going to work together and make it happen.
You guys date for a while before getting married, right?
Exactly. And, and I think dating and, business partners, I think one of the big things a lot of people miss is they just don't talk about the hard issues, right? Like, okay, everything's good. It feels good right now. Let's just keep rolling, I don't want to poison the water. I don't want to bring out something that might upset the other person, and that is the key to a good partnership. And I would argue also probably a good dating relationship.
Yeah. There's a lot of similarities.
Bring it out. Be like, hey, these are my goals. This is what I want to do. Are we in alignment? How are we going to deal with the fact that we might not be in alignment on everything? That's the kind of talk that people need to have, right? Hey, we're here. This is where we're at. What about the things we don't agree about? What about the differences we have? In business, it's like, well, I'm doing this, you're doing that. We're aligned on this, but what are you going to do about your other business? What about these other relationships that you're working with? The dating side.
Right.
Hey, I want to move here. You don't sound like you want to live in a you don't want to live in the same climate. I want to live. How are we going to balance our time to make sure that we're both happy? And, so hard conversations, I think, is critical in business partnerships. It's what I encourage my clients to do when they show up in the office. It's like, hey, get out the paper, talk to each other, talk about who's going to be doing what, who expects to make how much money. How is the money going to get divided? What's going to happen if you have good times? What's going to happen if you have bad times? And these are conversations most people don't have. And that's why a lot of people have trouble.
Yeah, no, that's so true. So where did you, so I think we got to a certain point in your story where you're working at those law firms. What'd you do from there?
So I worked for a great law firm in DC, probably my favorite job. One of the jobs where I really enjoyed showing up to work every day. And then they ended up
What were you, if you don't mind me asking, what were you doing? What kind of law? What?
corporate law. I was a senior associate. A lot of capital raise transactions, the companies that were
Oh, wow.
going out in the market raising money, particularly at that time, and it's changed over years. Back then, it was a lot of Asian companies, Chinese companies in particular, raising money in the U.S. It was very hot back in the middle 2000s.
Okay.
I did a lot of those transactions at that law firm in D.C.
What were they raising money for?
Business operations expansion in China. So they were
Got it.
a lot of these companies were coming to the U.S., offering their stock, becoming U.S. companies, public companies listed on different markets. And then they would take the money back to Asia, raise 20, 50, $100 million, whatever, take the money back to China, and then build new plants, expand operations, go into more markets. So that was really happening a lot
Wow.
back in the 2000s. Very, very hot market. I was involved in a lot of that. So
That's pretty cool.
awesome.
I'm sure you got a ton of experience doing that.
very interesting working. I've always worked a fair amount internationally, but working with Asia and China in particular was very interesting. And then just the volume and the frequency of those deals was very interesting.
Yeah, that's huge. That's a huge market too.
Yeah, exactly. So after that, what'd you do?
After that, I got that law firm went out of business. It was the recession. It was 08 when,
Oh, wow.
everybody's houses were, underwater and everything.
Right.
So so I ended up moving to Dallas. I got recruited from DC to Dallas. A big law firm in Dallas liked my profile. They had some other deals going on, not as much Asia focus as the DC firm, but they wanted to do the capital raise and all that. And so popped down there and built with them for a while. And then after I was in Dallas for about 3.5 years, I started my own law firm. So I built
Okay.
good stuff.
So what when that company went out of business, did you just get laid off along with a bunch of other people?
Basically, yeah, they called us in a conference room right around Halloween and said, "Hey, we're closing next month. You won't have a job." And people were crying and in hysterics and everything else.
What was that like? What was going through your head?
Well, I kind of knew that it was going to happen because I had pushed some people with hard conversations, kind of the hard conversation theme.
Mhm.
There were warning signs floating around, so I called some people and pushed them, and they gave me some answers and kind of knew that it was coming a little earlier than maybe some other people. But it was still about fun, and I was still negotiating my next job at that time. I was already started the interview process. I hadn't had anything firm yet at that point. I had a bunch of So yeah, it creates a great bit of uncertainty,
Yeah.
Yeah, that was gonna be one of my questions. Is what was your plan? Or, did you have a plan once that happened? But you said you were
I had gotten word from other people that
right.
it was likely that this was going to happen. It was likely they were going to close up shop and go out of business. So I had a couple of months advance notice prior to every.
That's helpful. Yeah,
Yeah.
Instead of running around with a
Well,
chicken with their head cut off.
I saw the warning signs, so I started calling people and I said, "Hey,
Well, so what were some of the warning signs for maybe someone's in your position right now and
yeah, well, there was a guy that worked at the law firm who was a higher up guy, and there started to be some warning signs because what was happening, the market was changing. The pay rates of lawyers was going up even though we were in a recession. So it was a very odd time, right? Because of the competition among the law firms and stuff. And financial press started saying, "Can this law firm handle it? Will they be okay?" So me and another person went to one of the really high up people. We were mid-level employees at this point. We weren't high up employees. We're mid-level employees. So we went to one of the high ups and we said, "Hey, financial press says things are not good here. What's the story?" And he was like, "This law firm's stable. I'm invested. I'm not going anywhere." And then 2 months later, he announced he was leaving. So I was like,
Wow. So that you knew.
yeah, I was like, this guy 2 months ago was telling me to stay,
Yeah.
everything's good. And 2 months later, he pulls the parachute. So me being glutton for punishment, I went back to this guy's office again. I'm like, 2 months ago, you said you weren't going anywhere. and now you're suddenly leaving. What's the story?
Right.
What's the deal?
And he said, well, I had to leave because the financial press was starting to get out there that we were in trouble, and my clients were starting to, my clients were starting to consider whether they wanted to go somewhere else. So I had to go. He's like, so this is a defensive measure on my part. And I was like, well, okay, but still a very bad sign,
Yeah, 100%.
And there were some other things like that going on. So there was signs of financial instability.
Mm-hmm.
Got it.
So then you started your own practice and
started my own practice. Well, there was one more law firm one more large law firm in the middle. Spent about 3.5 years there.
Mm-hmm.
And what were you doing there?
More corporate law, less Asia focused, still a lot of capital raise, mergers, partnership agreements, kind of similar to what I do now. I've always done kind of the same stuff. It's just when I left the big law firms, and then started my own law firm, kind of the size of the client dropped, from being publicly traded companies to being, privately held companies, regular people that own businesses that, make money for themselves and their families. That's my typical client now. Versus mega companies,
Right.
Same core issues, just really different focus. So yeah, I spent 3.5 years with them. April of 12, I started my law firm. So, and then I've had that law firm since then. And then later, around 2016, I started up my speaking and consulting business. So I have the two businesses running parallel right now.
Love it. So I want to talk about, leading up to you April of 12, when you started it, what did you do to prepare to start it? Why did you want to do your own thing? Give us just how you started it, how you raised money, if you did, how you secured funding, all that good stuff.
Yeah, well, for me, it was really internally funded, right? I knew for a long time that I didn't have a lot of stability in big law firms. And I think this is true of any job. I just saw it very early in my career. If you're an employee, you're working for somebody else, you're kind of on their timeline and their priorities, right? So your advancement is tied to their priorities. So if it's economically beneficial for them to advance you, they'll advance you, and if it's not, they won't. And if they need you, they need you. If they don't, they don't. Right? I mean, this is true of almost any job. But I saw it very early on in the law firm world, and I said, okay, you better be prepared, Shawn, because you're at their whim.
Right.
So, law school, I said that. So I said, okay, I got to get myself prepared, But I thought I was gonna do the law firm game. I thought I'd stay with it for a long time, and so I just kind of slowly put money to the side just in case, like, hey, there may be a day you need that,
Nice.
So, when my coworkers are out buying brand new BMWs and I was buying used Pontiacs, and
that's a great lesson right there, to just have cash set aside. It's like it's the whole analogy. You got dry powder ready to go.
Right.
And when an opportunity comes up, you can jump.
I wanted the options, and I knew that having, car payments, and I did have a mortgage, but having car payments, having too big of a mortgage, too big a rent, whatever, all that stuff comes down. So I said, okay, I got to stay nimble here because I can see the handwriting on the wall, right? I'm working for somebody else. I'm at their whim. And so I built that for years, knowing that there would be the time. And then, after being in the big law firm world, having the one go under, having other law firms change, because people are always changing, people are coming and going, and the system's constantly shifting. I said, oh, hold on, I want to build something where I'm in control,
Absolutely.
That was kind of what pushed me to build more,
Got it. So, Brandon, you're good.
I was so obviously with your years of experience in the law firm, working for other law firms, was it a fairly easy transition for you to begin your own practice, or what kind of struggles did you face starting it up?
I don't know if the transition to owning your own business is ever easy.
Right.
Right.
I was in a unique position because, what I did was work on other people's business plans and help them build businesses, right? So I knew a lot of the building blocks, but, when you own the business, you have to do a lot of everything, So I jumped out there and, it became necessary to be good at a lot more things, particularly sales and marketing, where I had not spent much attention, earlier in my career. So I had to go to sales training, and learn that side of the business and figure out the marketing side of it. So, I don't know how you jump in, other than to jump in. I mean, the other day somebody asked me, like, they were getting ready to start a business, and we were going through I was at an event, we're going through a bunch of productivity tools, and this person's like, well, I'm new, I don't know which productivity tools I need. And I said, you know what you need to do? You need to jump out there, figure out how you think it's going to work, start trying to make it work, and when stuff starts breaking, then you can replace it.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, because the way you think it's going to work, it's not going to work that way.
No. And you want to plan, and I encourage people to plan, and I encourage people to think through what they think it's going to be so that they get as much down as they can. But the honest truth is you got to go out there and start experimenting and testing some stuff, and then figure out what's working and what's not working. Because if you don't do that, you're never going to figure it all out on paper.
That's exactly right. That's such a recurring theme on our show, is that everybody talks about how, just don't have paralysis by analysis, and don't overanalyze things. Don't be in that learning mode where you're in it for years and years and years. I've seen people that do real estate stuff, and they go to all these seminars, and it's like they constantly are just doing that. They never get out of seminar mode. They're always, and they never jump out.
Yeah, they're a professional networker.
Exactly.
They're not doing a whole lot.
Well, there's a lot of people who are waiting for one more certification,
Right.
Yeah.
Like, when I get that certification, I'll be able to start, It's like, there's no certification in the world that's, obviously, I guess, if you're going to be a CPA, you're going to be an attorney, or you're going to be an engineer, right? You need, like, the state certificate in order to do the business.
Sure.
Arrested, right? But, beyond that, there's no certificate in the world that's going to guarantee you're going to be able to run a business well.
Right.
Amen.
That's true. So, you talk about, earlier we were talking about how you're doing, your big kind of motto is do business differently. So kind of talk about that, and how, what your mindset is on that, and what you really mean by doing business differently.
Yeah, that's something that emerged in my work. So as I spent years in the big law firms and started my law firm and the beauty of this business is I get to work with other businesses. So I get to learn from them and see what's working for other people, aggregate data, kind of just see what's happening in the marketplace. And
that's cool.
What I found was, if you're going to be successful, you got to have some unique twist in your business, right? You got to do something different than everybody else. And a lot of people who are newer at business, they're like, well, I want to go out and, have a donut stand because the other guy's making a killing on donut stand. It's like, well, why are they going to go buy your donuts and not buy their donuts, Or why are they going to come to your CPA firm and not their CPA firm? Why are they going to go listen to your radio show and not their radio show, right? You got to have that twist of uniqueness. There's got to be something that makes it work with that audience. So I always knew this, and I always talked about this, even when I was early in my speaking career, as I was bringing these lessons together for audiences. And I never had a visual. And then later, about 2 years ago, I started wearing unusual suits. So people that find photos of me on the internet will find that I'm often wearing something very unusual. And so,
if you guys are out there just listening to the audio, he's wearing a camouflage. He's got fatigues on. That's his his sport coat is camouflage. So it's pretty cool looking, and obviously stands out.
Exactly.
or blends in because it's camo.
Camo, yeah. In this case, exactly. Always looking for something unique, because I want to start that conversation of how are you doing things differently in business. And I think every business needs to know it. It doesn't have to be wearing weird coats. I always tell people, I'm the one that wears the weird coats. You don't have to do that in your business model, but you do need to have something unique for your customer offering. You have to have something unique in how you blend information together. There's got to be some reason people are coming to you versus everybody else. And so I tell business differently, be unique.
So it doesn't even need to be some crazy complex thing. I mean, with you, because I was sitting there thinking, well, shoot, Brandon, what are we doing that's different? And kind of overthinking it maybe. You're different thing, and I'm sure you do other things that are actually business related differently. But it can be something as simple as wearing a colorful jacket. Is that what you're saying?
Well, it started for me. It's because I'm out getting people thinking about this, and I wanted to be the message. I do that because it starts that conversation.
Got it. Okay.
Conversation. It's very unique to me that it's the unusual jacket, but it may be that you have a different way of billing than other people in the market. You have a different way. You serve a different sub market, right? Everybody else is talking about these issues, and you're talking about the other issues because you think they're important. Everybody else is focused on some very narrow problem. You're focused on a bigger problem, or
I
vice
like
versa.
that.
Everybody else is focused on a big problem. You're focused on a subset. You got to have something that's, why are somebody going to tune into your radio show and they're not going to tune into somebody else's radio show? You're serving a different audience. You got a different message. You got a different focus. You got a different personality and style, obviously. You have to understand that why, and you should then run with that and you embrace it, right? And say, hey, this is why I'm for people. I mean, there are people that will not do business with me because I wear these unusual coats, right? They're like, what the hell? This lawyer's wearing this weird stuff.
Right.
Okay, don't do business with me.
Right.
Work with somebody else. It's fine, because what I found is the people that were so like, let's follow everything, let's do the same thing as everybody. I can't work with those businesses. I can't unlock them. I can't help them grow because they're so worried about what everybody else is doing, right? And that's not the answer.
So you're saying niche down, if you will.
Yeah. Niche down, or just know who your audience is, right?
Right.
There is no business, even Microsoft, Google, Apple. I mean, the huge names. There's no business that everybody's their customer, right? I mean,
that's right.
That's true.
Apple and Android got huge market share in cell phones, right? They, between the two of them, they got, probably 80-90% of the market. But there's nobody is both. Not everybody is on Apple and Google, right? People have to, right? Like you're on one or the other. And
that's
so,
right.
Yeah, you've either got the blue text or you get the green text. And
yeah, exactly.
And I don't talk to the people with the green text.
Exactly, right? So it's like that's it, right? I mean, there's even the biggest companies still have some way of segmenting the market.
Right. Yeah, that's true. So when, let's say smaller business is looking to do something differently, are they doing research kind of from their target market to figure out how they can do it differently, or are they just coming up with, hey, I think this is different and it could work, and let's see how it works?
Yeah, I mean, I think you got to be practical in a small business context. I mean, yeah, you can pay somebody out there to do huge market studies and all that stuff. I mean, for most businesses, that's not realistic.
Right.
What is realistic is saying, hey, let me talk to my customers or my potential customers. Let me see what they're frustrated with. What are other people not servicing? And now I can service that, right? Now we got a winner, right? Like, because I got something the other guy doesn't have, right? They're frustrated. The other guy, the other woman, the other service provider in the market doesn't have, this offering. They don't return my calls for a week at a time, or whatever the case might be. You find that little thing and you say, this is what we're focused on. This is why you do business with us. It's just some combination between formal market research. A lot of it can just be listening, listen.
Right. Just boots on the ground listening, right?
Yeah, just pay attention, just tune in and listen.
That's good stuff.
I listen to my audiences. I get on stage and I tend to be a conversational speaker. I tend to break things down, simplify a lot of the complex legal things and all. And these consultants were all telling me, be polished, and I had all these wardrobe consultants and other people come in and look like the most button-up lawyer at one point, And I'd get up there and I'd be this button-up lawyer, and the profile would say I was a lawyer, and I'd get up there and then I'd get off stage and people would be like, you don't talk like every other lawyer, And I'm like, so eventually I figured out, well, if I don't talk like every other lawyer, I don't act like every other lawyer, why am I dressing like every other lawyer? Because it's sending the wrong message.
Absolutely.
Right?
You got to be yourself.
Right. When they saw me and they read about me, they expected, standard lawyer. And then they would get disappointed or they would get missed expectation. So I think everybody's got to kind of figure out what that is for them, right? What is it that people come to you for that they don't come to the other people for, and then double down on it.
That's really cool. And that's unique about yours, because you're exactly right. When I think of a lawyer, I just think of this, guy wearing a gray suit that he talks exactly how you should, very politically correct, very boring. And then how you are. I mean, that's exactly right. You really
most lawyers are going to say, do this, don't do that.
Right.
You can do that. And then, and then just kind of be like, go. And then I start with, well, what are you trying to accomplish? What's your business objective? Why are we doing this? Okay. Yeah, can't do that because of a compliance issue, but we could try this over here. This could comply. What do you think about this? I'm kind of like a problem solver. I want to be part of the process. I want to be hands-on with my clients, interactive. And that's
cool.
different than how most lawyers do business,
Yeah, that's exactly right. So what is your focus now? What is your focus today? You said you started that law firm back, what was that, about 6-7 years ago?
Yep.
And what is that morphed into? I mean, obviously it's morphed into what you're doing now with doing business different. What else?
Yeah. So I still do the law firm, very selective with my clients, but I have four major things I do. I know what I do. It's, partnership agreements, it's mergers, it's capital raise, it's contract negotiations, right? That's 80-90% of my law work is one of those
Got
things.
it.
People come to me, I got these problems. So I fix those problems for people, and help them long term. These are also tend to be long term planning type issues rather than fire issues. I'm not the lawyer that comes in there just because one problem one time. I'm working with my clients long term. And then
Okay.
I do the speaking and consulting on business plan execution, right? I mean, how do you build your business plan now? How do you build your plan for the future of business? And let's get in there and make something that works. That's going to, take care of you over the long term, not just make you some money right now, but how's this a sustainable business? What does it look like? And then some of my clients, it becomes planning for their family, right? So, what happens if after I'm not here? How do I keep this business running or keep the wealth for my kids, and how do I pass
Nice.
it on? So those are fun things to deal with. And there's no one answer on those either, particularly now with the generational changes. A lot of younger people don't want to run the business, right? They don't want to be tied to the desk. They don't want to work 80 hours a week. So we have to figure
Right.
out a way to,
That whole Tim Ferriss thing.
yeah, either sell the business or transition the business or bring a management team in there, do something, because the old model was just, oh, well, if I die, my kids will run the business. It's great. It doesn't really work these days.
Right.
No.
A little more
No.
interactive than that, so.
That's a great point. Brandon's dad has a business that he doesn't want to take over, and my dad has a business that I don't want to take over. It's the same.
Right, there you go. I mean, and
That's a prime example.
and you get it, particularly with the medical advances and the other things we've had too. A lot of times, kids, the kids are out running businesses. They're living in different cities. They're following their dreams. They're already out of the gate by the time, potentially the parents like, okay, I'm going to hang it up now.
Right.
Exactly.
That's a big issue too. I think timing wise, with people not living as long in the past and other things, and people who generally stayed in the same cities more probably 25, 30 years ago than they do now. It was easier, but now it's very complex, because my clients are like, oh, my child, they're one of them's like, my child's a pilot. He lives in another city. Well, he's not going to stop being a pilot for a small business, right? He's going to continue being a pilot, continue that career path, and probably continue with his family in the other cities. So we got to come up with some alternate way to do something with this business.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
So kind of speaking on that, I know another one of your favorite topics is the future of business, and so what is the future of business? Where do you see it going, and how do you see it getting there?
We're moving into a complex world. So I mean, I have a YouTube show, Future Done Right, and we go out there and we look at what the future of business is, and we take a broad map of it. We talk to people about some of the geopolitical stuff that's going on, because there's a lot of stuff going on at the world politics level, which is impacting business, particularly regulatory. A lot of our clients now, it used to be very easy to do business internationally, particularly in the software or technology space. You could just cross over, you roll out a technology and you put it in another country. Well, now there's a lot of privacy regulations. Europe has something called GDPR, where they regulate what you do with people's personal information. So it's not as easy to just take a business, build it in one country, and copy and paste it. That's a huge emerging issue of how do we regionalize or how do we internationalize technology, and that's a big thing that's coming down. We got technology coming, obviously, AI, machine learning, and I don't think the human jobs are going away, but I think our role is going to change.
Absolutely.
We have to teach the computers and the machines and the robots what we want and how we want it. And there's huge industries there that haven't even developed yet in coordinating that and making the AI and machine learning help mankind rather than be mechanical. And so I think we're going to see a lot of that in the future too, right? We're going to see more machines, more computers, more of that type of stuff, but there's going to be a lot of human interaction with it guiding it. And so that's coming down the pipe too. So we got to understand that. And, some businesses and industries are going to be radically transformed. We've seen it before. It's coming down the pipe for other industries. Self-driving cars, I think they're going to come. I think there's logical reasons for it. I think it's inherently doable.
Mm-hmm.
So at some point, we're going to hit a tipping point where these self-driving cars are going to be on the roads more and more. And that's going to change the way our cities are laid out. That's going to change
Absolutely.
our time. It's going to change the ownership of cars, because I think a lot of people are going to start questioning, why do I own this thing? I can just jump in one when I need it. Or people are already starting to do that a lot already, but I think more of that's coming. So I think we have some radical transformation coming in different industries. We just got to be paying attention, right? Pay attention to what industry are you in? What industries are connected to your business? Draw those broad lines and then start paying attention so that you can start morphing your business as you go to make sure you stay ahead of this rather than behind it.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was going to say or ask is, for someone who's kind of looking to get into their own business, are they looking into what's trending now, or kind of what's trending in the future to kind of jump into?
Yeah, one of my next books is going to be, it's called Entrepreneur CEO. It's about the future. How do you plan to become more than just a person who owns this job to really somebody that runs a business and enterprise? And we talk a lot about Wayne Gretzky's principle of skate to the puck, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Wayne Gretzky famously said, I was great because I didn't skate to where the puck was. I skated to where the puck was going to be. Right. And this is where you need to be in business, right? Like, where is the business going to be 2, 3, 5 years from now? That's where your business needs to be, right? Not where is business.
That's so good.
10, 15, 20 years ago, I think with change not happening as rapidly as it is now, you could say, hey, there's an opportunity there. And then you could spend 2 or 3 years building a business to meet an opportunity. That is the past. Now you have to say, where are the opportunities going to be? How do I build a business that's going to meet tomorrow's opportunities and needs?
That's so good. Yeah, because today, the way that everything is so rapidly changing. I mean, I listened to this Elon Musk interview. I think he was on Joe Rogan's podcast, and it was mind blowing just what that guy's thinking up. And he was talking about AI and the underground roads that he's trying to develop. It was just some incredible stuff, and it's like it just made me think bigger and try to think one step ahead in business, because the way everything advances, like you said, you could think of something, develop it over a year or 2 years. By the time it's all done and you're ready to roll it out, it's obsolete.
Right. And that's happening more and more these days,
And at a faster rate too. I mean,
you got to pay attention to where things are going, and then got to anticipate and build for that.
That's good stuff.
That's crazy.
That is crazy.
And I agree. I mean, I think, just look at cell phones. I mean, iPhone comes out with a, friggin' new iPhone every week, and you're just like, I just spent $1,000 on this one. What am I doing? But they're keeping up with, they have to be able to stay relevant. And
a lot of interesting lessons there. I mean,
exactly.
That cell phone market. I mean, yes, they are constantly innovating because they can't become stale, right? I mean, you gotta put out new phones, or else it ain't gonna take long, and somebody else is gonna have a better phone, right?
Right.
Their innovations, at least recently, have been more iterative, right? They're not as mind-blowing as they were before.
Right.
But they got to do it because, it wouldn't take but 2 or 3 years, and then cell phone design would be grossly outdated, right? So they knew that in that business, right? I got to have something for you.
People have short attention spans, right?
Exactly.
So in talking about the future, I know it's kind of scary for people to think, the future, you think out 10 years, you're like, oh, it seems like so far away, but 10 years can come really fast. What, for you personally, what excites you about the future of business?
I just think that what's great is I think we're moving into a more creative era, and I think more and more people are going to be able to be themselves in business. They're going to be able to embrace their greatness. They're going to be able to be creative and have support for that through either technology or other people. So I think we're moving into a great age that way. And I think, this technology should hopefully unlock more human expression rather than less. So I think that's a great thing. But on the flip side, you've got to be ready to embrace it. You got to be ready to learn and adjust and change, because there is a large portion of the population that doesn't want to change. They want to stay in the status quo. They're happy with the routine. And in a lot of cases, that's just not going to be an option. I was on another show recently. A woman's like, I got a bunch of 50 and 60-year-old tractor trailer drivers that listen. what do you tell them? And I said, you better be learning something, because if we get self-driving tractor trailers,
Yeah, you won't have a job.
You're toast.
right?
You're going to be loading the truck.
Right. You better start developing a new skill now. You got a window of time, because we can see that it's probably coming, but it's not coming next year. It's not coming 2 years from now. So great opportunity if you're a tractor trailer driver to start learning something. You may not want to, but I recommend it, because your alternative is pretty bad, right? You're going to be having a skill that nobody wants.
That's exactly right. That's really good. And that can be that example right there can be used across
Oh yeah,
a number of industries.
Right. I just pinpoint that, but there's a lot of people that are sitting there where their job, maybe salespeople. I work a lot with sales teams, and sales is not going away. We're still going to have salespeople, but if you're just sitting there and you got the kind of cushy sales job where the phone rings and you match up orders, or you help people and you make a really nice paycheck, guess what? You're sitting in the targets of automation.
100%.
The salesperson is more consultative, that's out talking to people, that really understands their business, that's getting things done. They're a lot safer. But there's a category of salespeople out there that are sitting pretty cushy right now, making good salaries, just matching up people's orders, not putting a lot of thought into it. Those people are in the crosshairs, and I'm concerned for them.
Yep, I agree.
So do you think it's easier now to kind of start a business than it was before, now that there's so many, with the internet and things like that, there's so many more opportunities to create money, or do you think it's kind of more difficult since there's more competition now?
I think there's a lot of tools out there, which is great, and you can custom blend it. I think that's good. I think, the key today, probably more than the past, is you've got to be innovative. It's a flatter world. So, you used to be competing against people in your local town. Now you're competing against the world, literally. I mean, especially if you do a technology type play, you are flattened out. You're, interact with customers around the world. Customers around the world can find you, but that means they can find all your competitors too. So we have to be even more unique and good at what we do. So I think there's still a world of opportunity. It's a much broader opportunity, but it's something you have to be a little more careful of, probably in modern times versus the past.
You just got to do business a little differently.
The difference still sings out, right? Why is, especially when we get to the world of the internet, where we have hundreds and thousands of options.
Right.
Yeah.
Why you? It can't just be because I'm in Denver, or because I'm in Detroit, or I'm in, Amsterdam. It's got to be something bigger than just, I happen to be in your town, which a lot of people competed on up until 5, 10, 15 years ago. Mm-hmm. That was a valid basis of competition. I am the best accounting firm in Denver. If you're in Denver, you will do business with me.
And now it just doesn't matter.
Yeah. I mean, it'd take you 3 seconds to type in a Google search and find the best, accounting firm in the country. And
right. You might say, well, that accounting firm in Denver, they're not responsible enough to customers. They charge too much, whatever. I'm going to go with this guy in Chicago, or this guy in Des Moines, Iowa, or whatever. Right. I mean, it's just that level of competition is so much flatter now. Geography basically has, in many cases, been erased as a basis of competition.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
That was your competitive advantage before. If that was your way of doing business differently, was you were in a certain geography, you can just erase that one. You better find something else.
Yeah, that's
seriously,
right.
That's outdated now. So that's awesome. Well, Shawn, I think we're going to jump into our Moments of Truth segment here. It's the same 7 questions we ask all of our guests, and I'm just going to kick it off with the first one. Who is your success role model?
I'm really, really impressed. Well, recently, I'll tell you who it is. It's changed to one of my clients, a guy named Todd Saylor. And this guy is amazing. He's not as well known as maybe some of the popular names, but he owns a company called PayServe Systems. He's built that thing. He's built a lifestyle around it. So he's really the kind of person where I say, this is what I think a lot of people want to be, right? He built a company that serves the life you want, but he also has good, strong morals and beliefs within there. Takes great care of his customers. So, he's not, I debate whether, you want a famous figure that everybody's heard of.
No. We want to hear.
I'd almost rather hear that.
This guy's doing it right. I've got to know him well over the last 6 to 8 months, and he's just doing it right. He's built a company that serves him, serves his family, and good values for himself and his employees.
That's really cool. So he, the business serves his life. He runs the business, not the other way around, which is so common.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah. And kind of like what we'll say, he'd rather hear you say somebody that nobody knows other than you, because everybody knows these big name people, and they're big names for a reason because, either they're
Jeff
super
Bezos,
wealthy.
Elon
Yeah,
Musk. Yeah, exactly.
super unrealistically wealthy. But, the gentleman you're talking about, he's probably, like you said, the business serves him. He's probably, financially free and able to, do things like that. And that's
Living
the
a
most
very good
important.
life. He's spending time with his family, and and he's helping people through his businesses. So it's a win-win-win.
That's awesome. Very cool. What is your biggest success?
I think building, a business is, again, a mini version of what Todd has. It's not my numbers aren't as big. It's not a scale as big, but the business is built around me. It allows me to be creative and bring my creative energy to other people and help them. So it took a long time to get to that point where I can do that. But, literally all my time is spent helping other people in some way, shape, or form.
That's great.
Which is awesome. I enjoy my days, and I get to get in there, and sometimes it's more personal, sometimes it's more group setting, sometimes it's a whole audience, but in some way, shape, or form, I'm unlocking other people and getting them to think differently about business. It's a great place to be. It's taken a long time to get here, but it's a lot of fun. So.
That's cool.
And I like how you mentioned it took a long time, because there's people out there that, they want that overnight success, and it's not like that.
So, yeah, you gotta know where you're headed. You have the dream, and then you just gotta keep knocking at it and knocking at it.
Put in the work. Yeah, exactly. Put in the hours.
Because eventually it'll be worth it, right?
Right. And I've been through this phase, and I have friends that are sitting in this phase and clients that are sitting in this phase. I mean, there are times where you're like, is this going to happen? And is it worth it? And you got to keep pushing, and eventually, if you keep pushing, you keep innovating, you keep adjusting, it will happen.
That's right. It's not if, it's when.
Yeah.
So, Shawn, what's a typical day for you look like?
Typical day's got certain elements in it. Every day I'm doing something to educate and grow. So that always will happen. I'm always talking to people about their business and what their goals are in some way, shape, or form. I'm often doing something where I'm connecting with the community of people that are out there thinking about business. So whether it be a podcast, speaking in person, just doing an interview on the radio or something like that, there's usually one of them. There's some form of that in a day, either prepping for that or doing that in a given day. And then beyond that, it's just kind of there is some part of just executing, right? Working on a client's launch of their company, planning with them what, we're going to do in 2020 or 2021 or whatever the case might be. So there's always those elements. And then the actual specifics vary. Some days I'm on stage, some days I'm traveling to be on stage, some days I'm at the office. But I'm always learning, I'm always helping people, and I'm always communicating out to people about, doing business differently and building their business plan.
Nice. What time do you usually wake up?
I'm an early riser.
Okay.
I'm usually started working by 5:30.
No kidding. Wow, that is early. So you wake up what, at like 4:30?
Yeah, 4:30. I usually don't sit up a while before I work. I mean, one of the first things I'll do in the morning is kind of just get up, kind of look at what I want to do for the day, and then I'm usually getting into planning the day probably within 15 to 20 minutes of waking up.
Nice.
Yeah.
I love it.
I'll take a break. I'll do some physical activity and stuff, and then re-engage. So I don't just work from 5 o'clock in the morning through, but I do like to start by understanding what I'm going to get into that day, setting my schedule for the day, setting my priorities for the day.
Nice.
Break, do some physical activity, do some other stuff, and then
get up out of the chair a little bit.
Yeah. Next question is, what is your favorite quote?
I like to say, what goes around comes around. And I think there's something about the karma piece of that. If you treat people well and if you show that, there's an element of putting positive karma in the world in that piece. So I think that's a big thing. You have to, and people see it over time. So put the positive energy in there. Be what you want to come back to you.
Absolutely.
Because, either directly or indirectly. I think the way it really works in the real world is when you do the right things, when you set the right tone, people see it, and then the right people will be attracted to you, and you'll be able to do business with them and build relationships with them.
Yeah.
So I don't know if there's this higher karmic thing that's like watching everything and making sure things get slotted right, but I think in the real world, people are watching what you're doing, and it's going to lead you to attracting the right people in your life.
Yeah, it's that whole The Secret, laws of attraction, all that. Yeah. That's
Yeah.
good stuff.
I love it. Shawn, what are some of your hobbies?
I like antique cars, so I got a couple of those. That's fun for me. Muscles
Okay.
cars from the '70s.
What kind? You gotta tell us what kind of cars.
I got a '70 Dodge Challenger convertible.
Okay.
I got a '67 Dart convertible, and I also
Nice.
got a '70 Challenger hardtop, which came from my dad. So I've got 3 right now.
Awesome.
Very cool. Wow.
Plan on getting more?
Got my eyes on a couple more.
Yeah.
There's a piece out there. My speaking fees aren't quite there yet, but I did put it out somewhere on the internet that I will give a speech in exchange for a restored 4.5 Mustang.
Look at that. Hey, that's
hilarious.
So someday when my speaking fees get high, somebody will find this random reference on the internet and they'll deliver me a car.
We'll take you up on it.
I'd probably rather a car than somebody too,
So
That's
awesome. that'll be a fun day. I'd like to get a Mustang convertible just because we have a family history with it. My father had one growing up, and then my grandfather restored one for my grandmother.
Wow.
Back in their retirement years. Beautiful car. So
Very cool.
One of those back in the stable.
That's pretty cool.
I like messing around with the older cars in particular.
I love that.
That's a fun hobby too. And there's a lot of people that you can connect with over those cars. I mean, there's meetups all over the place, and
I've met a lot of friends in that circle, and it's kind of opened some doors from the business side.
mm-hmm.
Bond, we talk about what cars we have, the stories of the cars.
Yeah.
The older cars do more for me than the modern cars. So
that's cool. I love it. What is the best business book that you've read?
I'm still a big fan of the E-Myth. I got to interview Michael Gerber last year, who wrote it. So
really,
great one. Yeah, I've always been a fan of the E-Myth. I hand it out to people. I've handed it out for years.
I just finished it. It was one of the best books I've ever read. It was awesome.
It's just so fundamental of how do you build a business and how do you build a business, right? Think of it as being an enterprise that runs itself rather than being a job that you go into, right? So love the E-Myth. Started the Future Done Right show, and it just so happened somebody I know had Michael Gerber coming in to speak, and they're like, I think I can get Michael Gerber to come on your show. And I'm like, I love it.
That is unbelievable.
And so I've gotten to know Michael. We've talked several times, and his wife, Luz Dahlia, who's running the operations on a lot of the detail stuff, she's fantastic too. So
that is so cool.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Last question here, Shawn. If there was one key piece of advice you could leave our listeners with about achieving success, what do you think it would be?
My friend Samson Williams, who's actually going to be on my show that I'm recording soon, says that it takes it's the hardest part of being an overnight success is the first 10 years.
I love that.
So I think there's a lot of truth to that. So that theme that we've already talked about in the other quotes as well. But I always remember that it takes a long time to build it. You're building something unique, and
you just got to have the patience and
a lot of famous people have been bankrupt, near bankrupt.
Yep.
I paint that picture not to say, hey, you're going to be homeless if you do this, but you have to understand if you're building something of great value that has a lot of uniqueness in it, that has a lot of learning and development in it that not everybody else has. It takes a lot of energy poured into it. And Tony Robbins and the Jack Canfield who wrote Chicken Soup, they all had periods where they dumped in their business and they didn't necessarily recognize money from it, but then the money showed up later.
Yeah, it was kind of like they were investing that time and it was going to pay off down the road.
Right, and there's countless of those stories out there. There's just 2 examples on top of the head. I mean, Tony Robbins went homeless. Jack Canfield had his credit cards maxed out. They all were building something of value.
Wow.
Later that made them very wealthy, but you've got to invest. It's an investment. That's exactly what it is.
And I think that scares a lot of people. So.
Because from the standard, CPA accounting advice, right?
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah,
your numbers are running the wrong direction, right?
Right.
That.
You need that several month cushion and savings and all that, and
Yeah.
But
exactly.
But Shawn, how can our listeners get in contact with you? I know you said you've got your podcast, your YouTube show, books.
You can check me out at planningdoneright.com. That's got kind of a general overview, links to some of my other sites. Future Done Right YouTube channel. Would love to have people come over and check out, comment. Let me know what you're seeing on Future of Business. And then you can also find me on LinkedIn, the Shawn McBride. A lot of people reach out to there, especially if they want me to help them with some speaking. Just send me a message. We'll chat. So come check me out.
Good stuff. And then
a lot of stuff. So come read it.
Yeah. What are the names of your books and where can people get a hold of those?
Yeah, so business blunders is one. That's about common business mistakes, kind of a checklist for business owners.
Okay.
Another one's called It's About Time. It's a time management book. It was put together specifically for a client, and then we turned it into a broader consulting around time management and improvement. So both of those are available on Amazon, so go check them out. And they're both quick reads, and they'll help you kind of get going in the right direction quickly.
Love it.
That's awesome. I always love when our guests get books because I always try to go check them out. But Shawn, we appreciate you being on the show today. There's a ton of value that you provided, and doing business differently and talking about the future of business, I think, is huge. So I appreciate you talking on that. And
I'm gonna go buy a bright pink sport coat right after this.
Yeah. And for our listeners, don't forget to subscribe to our show so that you're not missing any of our daily episodes just like this one. And join us on Facebook at facebook.com/groups/wealth junkies. Again, Shawn, we appreciate you being on today.
All right, guys. A lot of fun.
Yep. Thank you.
Thanks, Shawn.